Learning to cast a baitcaster can be frustrating. All the backlashes and bird's nest or professional overruns, whatever you want to call it, it is just annoying. But there's a very easy way to avoid this most of the time. My name is Wesley Littlefield with YourBassGuy.com, and today I'm going to show you how to cast a baitcaster. So the first thing that I want to talk about today with a baitcaster is your brakes. Now you're going to see a dial on this side, and there's actually a dial on this side as well. This dial is for, think of it like your course adjustments. You're going to change it from level 1 to this has 10 levels or strengths, and then this is to fine tune and dial it in to exactly what you need. So I usually set this, actually this one's at 0, and then I usually fine tune it with this, or you can adjust it with this one as well and then go from there. So now let's switch to the GoPro and show you exactly what I mean. Before I ever make a cast, I'm going to check the speed or the fall at which this lure has, and basically this is to help me fine tune and adjust my spool so I don't just get a backlash every single cast. So I'm gonna literally hit the button and let it free fall, and then I'm gonna stop it with my thumb before it actually hits the ground or the water, just to keep it from falling. Now this speed right here is pretty much perfect. Every now and then you might, like if you're fishing in windier conditions, you might want to tighten it down just a smidgen, and it doesn't take much. And that's like the perfect fall in my opinion. You want it about that rate. Now to cast it, we're going to push the button and push our thumb onto the spool, just like that. Now I'm going to bring it back over my head while keeping my thumb on the spool and make a slick casting motion. And right before that bait hits the water, my thumb hits that spool and stops it once again. If you don't, I really don't want to do this, but I'll do it for the sake of video. If you don't put your thumb there, that's what happens. You get professional overrun, and then you spend forever undoing it. There are a few tricks that you can use to avoid having to use your thumb. You can actually crank your brakes all the way up. Now when you do this, you don't necessarily have to use your thumb nearly as much or at all, but you do not cast nearly as far. If you want to maximize your casting distance and cast a bait caster as far as it's designed to do, you want to crank the brakes all the way off. Now this takes practice, so you might start with them all the way on and then slowly work your way to having them all the way off. And then, of course, fine tuning and adjusting your fall rate of your lure. Let's talk a little bit about hand placement when I'm casting. I hold my reel, it feels most comfortable like this, right here in between, you know, my index finger and my thumb. My thumb is always going to rest on the button and the spool. That's why some people do this. I mean, it's kind of a matter of preference, honestly, either way. And now my left hand is going to come to the bottom of the pole. I'm going to make sure that I've got 6 inches tops hanging out from the lure to the tip of my pole. I'm going to bring it back over my head and make a smooth cast. I'm not going to try to whip it really hard, because if you try to whip it really hard, more than likely you're going to get professional overrun, and it just makes for frustrating. So just make a smooth, easy cast and then reel it back in. That is how you cast a bait caster. Really a little bit more complicated than it needs to be, I guess, but breaking it down like this really helps you cast a lot better. And honestly, bait casters are one of the greatest inventions for fishing, period. But they're no good without throwing the right lure. And if you want to know one of my favorite lures, how to rig it, how to fish it, the chatterbait, check out the video down below. Otherwise, Don't forget that education is important, but fishing is essential.